produce the UV and the other things. So because all of you are continuing the semester, so hopefully you know everything, the basic stuff of the classes, so we can start right now. So my name is Young-Gyu Lee. I'm professor of computer science and engineering department, and this is my 13 years, surprisingly. Yeah, 13 years. So I didn't expect this. Okay, so in my life, I mostly, if I remember correctly, I never stayed any place longer than 10 years. Even I moved when I was a kid, a couple of times I moved to the new house, and also I was in the university 7 years, including 3 years of the military leave, and 7 years in my first job, and 4 years of my PhD. So this is my longest day, which I never expected. But I think the most difficult part to move to another place is because of kid. So this year, my daughter going to college. So who knows? But anyway, so in the last 13 years, so I have been teaching and researching on the computer science stuff. Mostly I'm teaching the computer science related courses, including database, operating system, and actually operating system was not my course. I taught at the early couple of years, but after that another professor taught this class. And unfortunately, after he left the UB several years ago, I took over, and nobody wanted to teach this class, so I'm teaching. So usually it's a little bit stressful to teach core courses. Okay, it's unlike the elective course. Elective course is based on my research, and my interest is more fun, and I can adjust what I can do other activity. But like that, such an elective course, core course is I need to follow the curriculum and the basic stuff. It's also the more strict to the student because it's the basic course of the our program. I'm sorry. So last 2 weeks I suffered from the flu, so I visited China, and last night I just returned. So it's a little bit dizzy right now. So still struggling from the jet lag, and also I got the flu. So it's almost recovered, not fully recovered. So be careful in front of me. So, but it's an outbreak in the East Asia, China and South Korea. So I heard that this time the flu vaccine is the little bit the mistake. So there are different types of the flu. So usually CDC decide based on the last couple of years. They decide that this time, this year is for this type of, but this year is totally different. The one was the outbreak. But anyway, so it was in my life. I never been such a severely. So including the 102 almost. 102 the temperature, so I went to the hospital 3 times in China. It's my new experience, and then still a little bit cough. So be careful in front of me. If you got the flu vaccine, don't believe too much. Okay. So, but anyway, so I'm teaching operating system the last few years, probably the next few years. As I'm teaching more and more the operating system, it's more fun. So because it's a fundamental of the computer science, so even that helps my research on the other subject. So I hope that you enjoy the operating system class in this semester. And also, since last semester, I'm going to use the cloud computing to learn about the operating system. So it's not much different from your virtual machine on your laptop, but recently our computing environment is quickly changing into the cloud computing. So whether or not you like, so it's kind of irreversible. We cannot go back to the old style. So you need to know how to use the cloud computing environment for your job and for the business and for your study also. So this is a good time to get used to if you never use the the cloud, so it's a good time to start to get used to the cloud computing environment. I know there are different types of the different service the provider in cloud computing, including the AWS. Anyone who ever used the cloud computing? I think that's good. So AWS is a leading company, but I'm going to use the Google Cloud. First reason, they provide a free coupon, and the second is more similar to the academic purpose. So AWS provide a fancy, nice web interface, but that doesn't mean that you can learn how to use the cloud computing, the more details. So, but Google Cloud platform use the traditional computing interface, especially for the operating system. Is I think a good exercise. So throughout the semester, for your exercise lab to learn the operating system and also your programming and the programming project. So we are going to use the Google Cloud Computing. So if you are not familiar with the cloud computing, especially the shared environment, like the command line interface, so I think definitely you need to a little bit put more effort on to catch up. And we covered in the classroom a little bit, but not the fully details. So if you already took the Unix programming or I think the Unix programming class, it definitely helpful. And also after this class, you are able to take the Unix programming to know about the more system programming. But anyway, so I will introduce more about the Google Cloud platform, the GCP, throughout the semester. Okay. So, and also my primary research area is on the data related stuff, including the data mining and data analytics and the big data. So if you are interested in such a subject, so you can take this semester I'm offering the big data course, but every semester I'm offering the different the elective courses like the NoSQL database, data mining, or the big data course. Recently, I couldn't offer the multimedia database course. I'm thinking the next semester, the fourth semester, but if I can offer, you can consider those courses as an elective course. Eventually, I forgot to mention that. So we have in our program. Oh, by the way, any non-computer science major? Like the technical management, electrical engineering?
Yeah.
Computer engineering is the same. Okay, so it's good. So computer science and the MSCS, MSc, we have the new concentration. It's not new. The concentration. Concentration means the degree, name of degree will not be changed, but on your transcript. So if you are taking this course, so there's a concentration, big data, and data analytics. So that includes the database, the big data, NoSQL database, and data mining. And I'm thinking to include deep learning offered by Professor Maumon. So this course, but the operating system actually is not. So mostly I'm teaching and the research on the big data and data analytics related courses and the research. So if you are interested in those courses and research, you can contact me anytime. Okay, so these are my information. There are two websites you can consider in this class. One is the class, the website, but I'm not going to update this one. This is a one-time the information for you and as a syllabus. So, but the most of the information and the announcement, everything, the submission related to the class activity will be based on the Canvas. So if you already registered this course, so you can find 50321, the operating system. Okay, so you should be enrolled. I'm going to call your name, the introduction. Okay. So my office is on the South Shore. Unfortunately, I'm not in the engineering building. It's a good place, but the problem is it's always locked. So if you want to access the South Shore, you can contact me or the GA, or you can push the button. If I'm available, I will unlock the door, entrance door. Otherwise, you can call to the security office to access this building. And then my office hour is here, but most of the time on Wednesday I'm available. Okay. The others is by appointment. Okay, so please contact me if you want to see me other than this time. When you contact me, please use the Canvas message. So if you are not familiar with the Canvas, if you go to the Canvas, then there's the inbox, so you can send a message. Using the operating system class, then most of the time I will respond as soon as possible. But if you send the email to the UB email account, it will take 1 or 2 days. Sometimes it can be ignored. So because I'm receiving the 30 to 40, 50 the email every time, so half of them are the garbage. So I click and delete first. Then sometimes your email can be considered as a spam. So please use the Canvas message regarding to this class. That will be the fastest and the safe way. If you do not receive the response or the email, that means the Canvas message, that means I'm working on it. Sometimes I need the time to process your request or to answer your request. So please be patient. But most of the time I will respond as soon as possible through the Canvas message. Okay. Then I have a GA this semester. Okay.
Hello guys, I'm a GA during this semester. I'll try my best to help you guys. If you have any questions, just let me know through the email.
I will update his office hour soon, and you can contact the GA if you have any question or any problem. So he will be more helpful than me. Okay, I'm not very nice. Okay, so in the semester, I'm going to use this textbook. This is the very well-known, popular, the operating system textbook. Author of this textbook is from the Yale. So I tried to invite him as the Engineering 400 speaker. But anyway, this is sometimes named as the dinosaur textbook. Every edition he used a different dinosaur. But anyway, so this is really very basic the operating system textbook. So we cannot cover each and every chapter, but at least I'm thinking to cover the part 4, that is the chapter 13. Even in terms of number of pages, it's 630 pages. Huge. So my class will be based on definitely the textbook. Okay, I made most of my class. So I mentioned the importance of the textbook. Especially the core course. The textbook is the kind of the survival kit in your life. So as long as you are in the IT or the computer science, computer-related job, so you definitely need this kind of the core course textbook. I'm still use my old textbook like the compiler or the computer architecture to understand the basic stuff. So it's up to you whether you purchase this textbook or not. I know that this is a little bit expensive. It's 200, like that. So it's up to you, but not all the version, all the edition. Okay, so keep updating the quickly change. Even this is not the latest one. So, but you can use the other textbook. There are many good operating system textbook, but my class will be based on this because each edition, each the textbook use different notation. Sometimes it's not easy to catch up. Even I do not understand some of the concept or the explained in the other textbook. So, but the basic concepts are the same. So please try to purchase this textbook. There are I think the minimized version of it's much cheaper, like the 30-40 bucks, the operating system textbook. I think that I have I'm not sure whether I didn't. So there's another, I will introduce it, another version, so simplified version of the textbook that took out a couple of the chapter, but it's okay to use in this class. Okay, so this is a primary material. Then I'm going to use some of the PPT file. However, the PPT file is the supporting material, okay, to help my lecture. It's not the primary. So some of the students study and memorize everything from the PPT file and took the exam. Then there might be some questions from the textbook which is not in the PPT file. Sometimes I explain in my just lecture. So then even though you complain why it's not from the PPT file, so please do not rely on the PPT file only. So it is controversial nowadays in the academic teaching, the community, whether the PPT file is really helpful for the lecture. Because most of the professors, including me, use the PPT file in the lecture to explain based on this one. Then the problem is the student usually pay attention to only the PPT file. We try to read the context, then not pay attention to what the professor is explaining. And also another problem is if we discuss, I know it's not easy to discuss in the classroom. Computer science classroom is not the psychology, this is not the sociology class, but also communication is very important. And while we are discussing about the concept of what is the process, what is the data structure, what is the memory, so we can even imagine whether or not that is really reasonable or doable, but that's more important, okay, in the class, not just memorize or the understanding contents from the textbook. So I try to not to use or the less use of the PPT file in my lecture, okay? But sometimes I need to use it to speed up, so because we do not have enough time. Also, I cannot memorize all of the contents, so to avoid any missing material, I try to summarize the lecture at each chapter using the PPT file, but most of the concept I try to introduce based on the discussion, so without the PPT file. But the key part is the primary material is a textbook. It's the best way is reading the chapter. Even though I did not mention whether you need to read this one, but before we learn basically I'm going to cover the one chapter per week, so which means you can read the one chapter before you come to it's around 50 or 60 pages in the textbook. So then it will be very, very helpful to catch up. Then you don't have to study the separately. So that is the textbook. Okay. Then the grading policy. So we are going to have you will have this semester grade the programming assignment. That is also those are based on the GCP, which means unfortunately I cannot accept the .NET programming. I know that you are very good at the .NET programming or the Microsoft product programming, but which are not available on GCP. So any program language that are available on the GCP are okay. including Python, Perl, C, C++, and there's a Go. The program language is Google program language. I will introduce a little bit more about this one. But unfortunately, .NET, the programming will not be acceptable. What is not available on the GCP, so it will not be acceptable. So the programming assignment should be available on the GCP. Okay, which means the GAME will grade by accessing your own GCP instance. Then that should be the working condition. Like that. I will give them more information about the GCP later. Then the pop-up quiz is the pop-up. I do not know how many times or when. Okay, so if I have a time and finish, then we will have the quiz. So which means I'm not going to offer the makeup pop-up quiz. So for example, I missed the last class due to the delay of the train. It will not be acceptable. Okay, so I'm never ever offer the makeup, the pop-up quiz. Pop-up quiz just pop-up. So if I feel, then I will offer maybe 8 or 9 times per semester. So 8 to 9 times depending on the progress of this class. Then also pop-up quiz will be used for attendance. So I'm going to call your name today, but probably you will it takes 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So also I'm not very good at pronounce all your name. So I try to definitely pronounce and remember all your name, but to save our time, I'm going to use the pop-up quiz as attendance also. So according to the school policy, so only medical issue with the doctor's note can be excused. Any missing or any makeup. Okay? I know some of you are struggling from the family member. So my grandma has passed away, or sibling is severe condition, so I need to visit. I'm sorry, but that cannot be excused. The only the acceptable, the excuse of your missing or the delay or the makeup of the class activity is your medical problem with the doctor's proof. It's interesting. Some of the students submit the doctors from your hometown, like Korea, China, India. So I know it's expensive to go to see a doctor here, but all of you have the insurance as far as I know. So only the local means within US, not out of US, will be acceptable. So please, the basic thing is you can attend. Okay, that's it. Even though you missed the class, I don't blame you. Okay, it's your decision and your responsibility. So for example, if you missed all of the class, but I will be responsible for the missing of the attendance, like you lose a 5 point. But I will catch up through the other project and the midterm. It's totally fine. So I don't blame or I don't discriminate. Even though you missed all the class, it's your decision, your responsibility. Okay, so please be responsible for, as long as you can catch up, you do your job, it's totally fine. Okay, so I'm not going to offer the makeup for the pop-up, but if you have any proof, so attendance will be excused. Okay, then there will be the homework, which is already scheduled. So based on the class schedule is here. So I'm not going to announce or remind you. So I will show you later on the Canvas. So you can, if you can find any due date, you can just submit. That's it. Just in case the progress of my lecture is the behind of that schedule, the GA will adjust the due date. Okay, so you can contact the GA. So Professor Lee does not cover this part, chapter 3. So then the GA will extend the due date. So that is just the review of what you have learned. Then couple of the exams. So, but don't pay attention too much to the percentile. Based on your the performance, overall performance, it can be a little bit adjusted. And then one more thing, on campus I will explain. So these are basically the schedule, one chapter per week, but sometimes maybe the slightly change it. And then we have the couple of times the GCP lab and I think the 5 times of the exercise lab using the GCP instance. Okay. So on the probably next week, the Thursday, I'm going to give the coupon information how to activate the coupon and how to create the instance. And so next time, I will remind you to bring your own laptop to the class. I think that there might be no problem on this semester. We have maybe the reasonable number of students, even though we have the access point. But just in case the access point is not there is a limitation. I think the 30 to 40 the user for one access point. Just in case it's hard to access the internet, so you can use it if you have the unlimited plan. Please use your own data plan and use the tethering to connect voluntarily. Okay, so then we have the spring break, and the final exam will be assigned by the registrar office. I will update the details, the final exam date and time. Problem is, some of you are leaving earlier, which also cannot be excused. So I'm not going to offer the makeup exam for those who need to leave earlier. I know. So sometimes you can purchase the cheaper flight if you leave 1 or 2 weeks earlier than the final exam week, but that cannot be excused for the early exam. So please, so keep in mind the class schedule, and there will not be problem. Okay, so this is the overall the syllabus. Any questions so far? Okay, then the Canvas. I think all of you are continuing students, so you already know how to use the Canvas. I'm not going to explain, but if you enrolled and this class, you are automatically enrolled the operating system on Canvas. All assignments are uploaded, so like the homework 1 through 8, so you can find the due date. So you can just, I'm not going to remind you, so from time to time check the due date, and you can submit the answer. Okay. There are 3 projects, so I'm going to explain the first project later, the next class, the details of what you guys need to do. And you can find all class material from here, including exercise lab, the GCP lab, and the homework, lecture note, and the project description, everything. If you cannot find the proper information or any material that I used in the class but not in the Canvas, then let me know. I will upload. Okay, I try to upload everything before semester begin, but in case any missing, I will do that later. And then pretty much I think this one is okay. And also when you send a Canvas message, I know some of you guys are taking the couple of my classes, so please use the proper class. Otherwise it will be messed up. And any submission through the Canvas, okay? In case of the submission of the document, like your answer, it will be automatically checked by the Turnitin regarding to the plagiarized submission. So be careful to avoid any plagiarized issue. Basic thing is if you type and if you submit your own work, you don't have to worry about it. Okay. Any question before we start? that's pretty much the introduction, orientation of this class. Okay, and before we start, I'd like to call your name to know who are registering this class. Undergraduate student. I think that we have a couple of undergraduate students. 1, 2, 2. Okay, this is a problem. So this course is closely listed with the 308, right? The 308 is the undergraduate class. So I'm not going to lower down the curriculum of this class for the undergraduate student, but it's almost a graduate level, but slightly lower the graduate level course actually. So, but it will be a little bit tough for the undergraduate student. So, which means you guys need to work hard. Okay. But based on my experience, really, it's not just kidding. Most of the undergraduate students who are taking the graduate level course, they have been doing very well. Okay, so please work hard and spend a little bit more time to catch up the contents of this class. But for the final exam and the final grade, I'm going to consider the undergraduate students separately, but we have only 2 students. So yes.
I'm undergraduate as well.
Do you register for the 503 or the 308?
308.
Then there will not be problem.
Okay.
But I have seen only 2 registration. So why don't you check it? So whether you register 503 or the 30. This one is 503, right? 503 is a graduate, and undergraduate is a 308. So if you register the 308, so it will be considered undergraduate. Then for the final grade, all the class activity is the same as the graduate student. But for the grading, your final grading will be different. The grading policy will be applied. Scott? Okay, so you are undergraduate, I think. Mom? You're undergraduate. I cannot see your name when you're graduate.
Seong, S-E-O-U-N-G.
So I think that you need to change it. If you are undergraduate student, you need to register the 308, okay? Okay, so Abdullah, okay, and Lavali Al-Leti, Abdulaziz, Akir, okay. Pritesh, Navia, Monica, and Sai Vivek.